Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to HGC Korea. My name is Wolf. With me is G Clef, and we are heading into our second best of 5 of the evening. Our first one was a little bit weird, a little bit trolly, a little bit of Gazlo, but this one, I have faith it will be a better series.
Yes.
I'm holding on to that hope, G Clef.
It is going to be a lot better, and especially for BlossoM, I think. Not Raven, Raven, please get out of my head right now. MVP Miracle, they have been coming downhill from, I don't think they ever went uphill, actually. They've been coming downhill for a while, and they're stuck in 5th, 6th right now. So, then this will be a battle to test themselves if they can climb up and maybe potentially have a chance to compete against the top 3 or 4 teams against Mighty Black, Tempest, and Black. Oh, did I just mention that before?
L5, yeah.
L5, yes. And BlossoM actually, on the other hand, they're trying lots of things with Gondar coming in, with Mora coming into the team. They're looking a lot better than Miracle right now.
Maybe some Cho'Gall on the horizon. There's a high chance of that with BlossoM's proclivity to play the heroes. And I mean, I think that we'll see some unique drafting out of BlossoM. What strikes me is, if you compare BlossoM to Raven, the difference between the two is I feel like BlossoM is constantly trying to adapt and improve, right? Whereas Raven's definitely stagnated and gone off the deep end in terms of drafting. Whereas BlossoM, you could see them try new things, then try to perfect those new things, and then take another step forward and be like, okay, let's try one more time to see if we can make this Cho'Gall pick work.
That's right.
And if it doesn't, then let's move on. Let's not do this anymore. Let's evolve as a team. And I've been watching this, and I feel like as HGC grows and evolves, maybe next year, maybe 2018, BlossoM becomes a top 4 team because they just keep growing and improving. We don't know what roster they're going to be running. We don't know if they'll exist as a team next year. But if they do, I feel like I'm just watching an upwards progression, right? And I think MVP Miracle is also slightly on the upwards progression, maybe less so than BlossoM. I think BlossoM's making bigger strides, right? So here they are with their new roster. I say new, but tonight's the last night of the first split here for Phase 2, so not really a new roster anymore, but we had questions going to this. How well is Gondar going to play? Would Mora fit the team, of course, formerly Modern Life of Tempest? And how would Wiz do on the support role? And I think it turns out that for all 3 questions, Gondar certainly lived up to the hype. Modern Life fit into the team quicker than we expected, and Wiz makes a good support player. Yeah,
that's right, and No Chat is filling in the flex, I think. His roster is completed, with especially Gondar, and his comfortable pick and the best pick was Stitches, and Stitches right now and before even in the meta. And he came in at the right time. We often see Fishing Hook coming out from Gondar too. Blending those great hooks can turn things around. You see Tychus Cho'Gall, lots of Genjis from Tutu.
Yep.
It used to be just Vala a long time ago, but it seems like he also picked up lots of the things that the team has been trying. So you can see it right there.
Yeah, and when you look at the Genji picks, you have to remember that this is oftentimes really dependent on bans of their opponents. So when Genji is not banned, when given the opportunity to pick it, they will prioritize it first. They will first pick it. It's going to be him every time. Smile on his face as we head into our first map here. But they are the underdogs today, absolutely. Not massively, not as much as Raven was, for example, in the previous series. But I think BlossoM could certainly take a map or 2 here. Remember, they're one of the few teams to have done that against MVP Black themselves. Yeah. So, this new roster of Miracle with Jaehyun back in action here with his TML teammates, Crazy Moving and Sniper, Judy stepping it up, has looked a little bit cleaner, honestly, and I think Honkono just did not fit this roster when he was on it last season. So Judy replacing him, I think, has actually leveled up this team quite significantly.
And talking about the roster changes, this team is maybe the only one still having troubles from the roster swap, and that worries me because we are through. And today's the last day of part number 1. If they cannot still perform at the drafting level and the game level that the other teams has been performing after the roster swaps, that worries me even going into part 2. Can they do better? It's going to take a lot of effort if they want to make changes like that.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the struggles they've faced. They've always been in the shadow of MVP Black, with the exception of the end of 2016 with the World Championship of Gold Series. That was their highest underperforming tournament ever. They got second place. They were defeated by Ballistics at the time, now L5. But yeah, ever since, otherwise though, they've been underperforming. They underperformed in Season 3 as Super League despite defeating defending world champions Tempest in the opening match. Didn't make it very far. Then going into this season, struggled at the beginning. We were all surprised and shocked. Remember on day one when Mighty defeated them, we were like, oh, Mighty looks to be stronger. But Miracle just stagnated quite a bit. That's why I'm happy they swapped the roster up, and I do feel like they've made certain adjustments that look really good. Duty on the Diablo actually is very clean right now, by the way. So I think they are the favorites going into this series, but it's not going to be an easy series for them, and it's one that certainly could go 4 or 5 games.
They also used lots and lots of double support competition other than any other team competition. So that tells us something, that if they lose on especially something like Tassadar or Ario or both, then oftentimes they end up drafting into a weird team comp because they want to do the double support, which every other team knows, so they target ban the support, which has not been which has been very effective against Miracle every time. Are they going to change it this time against BlossoM? Let's see the draft very soon, but before, let's see the battleground. It's going to be both StarCraft maps, Banned, and Miracle. Seems like they chose Battlefield of Eternity, which is their worst map with 17% win rate, actually.
Interesting that they would do that. Unfortunately, not as experienced as their sister team at this one. You know, as we talked about in the last series, Black definitely best at Cursed and BOE. It's a surprise they wouldn't take the Cursed Hollow pick, given that it's available, and we've been seeing a lot of teams ban Cursed Hollow against MVP Miracle. Doesn't necessarily mean they won't be able to line it up, take this win, and then go to the second one. But if they end up falling behind in this series and they prioritize first pick over the battleground, we may never see Cursed Hollow. So that's one of the concerning things. But either way, BlossoM will have first ban as we head into this one. And as expected, Mouthdale is immediately highlighted. Does so much to the Immortals, despite his slight trait nerf and his nerf to his Tormented Souls. Will still be removed. Took Korea a long time to realize that he was super powerful on this map, but they definitely know it now.
Yes, even with the nerf, still very strong on this map for sure. Miracle, do they want to ban Genji here?
I think you should.
If they open Genji, they can actually let BlossoM take Genji. Doesn't really matter too much because Miracle will have the chance to grab onto Illidan, which has been the favorite of Dami so far.
I feel like Dami is a player that can help Miracle deal with the Tassadar compositions that BlossoM might run with Ariel. Like if you ban the Genji, then they'll pick Ariel, right? But then you have the tools, you have the player base, the dive composition that Miracle is so good at with Dami, to dive, burst down the Vala if that's what they choose with the Ariel composition. You have the ability to deal with that. I'm more comfortable with them dealing with that than dealing with the Genji, especially considering how often BlossoM has picked it for Dudu. And it looks like they agree with they will take the Genji away. Now, BlossoM could throw a curveball here and not run the Ariel, but looks like they're just going to do it.
So taking that away from the hands of Miracle because they love double support. So I think that's a very good answer from the beginning. But they're still going for the Trinity, but without Ariel this time.
So Miracle doesn't take the approach I thought they would because they want to do double support so badly, it looks like. And I thought we were just going to see a heavy melee assassin with dive to try to stop whatever Ariel comp comes out. But instead, they're just going to take the two pieces of the Trinity, the two parts of the triangle, away from BlossoM with their Vala Tassadar, which will weaken the Ariel pick. Now, there are still other heroes you can run with the Ariel. In the past, Gul'dan was usually one, but not so much anymore. Almost never see him. But I wonder if this is just going to be now a melee assassin, like a Greymane coming out, the Illidan, these heroes that can build up hope very quickly that aren't Vala. But I think this is not what Wiz and BlossoM expected based on the reactions here, the somber faces on the side of BlossoM. I think they were expecting Miracle to just give these away and try to counter it in another way.
Or at least one of these, not both, because Ariel is already onto the other side. So there will be a counter and taking Illidan away from Dami's hands. Okay, I like this choice, having the blinds against the dive potential because I think they are thinking of Greymane as their main source of damage with the burst, with the race onto the Immortal too, so they're just going to grab onto Cassia before the second bend phase.
I like the Cassia pick. It works well with Ariel. We've seen it pair with Ariel quite a bit. Even used in Shogal comps. The blind is very powerful against Vala. It won't kill Vala outright, but you can help finish her off with the Fend when the Fend damage comes in, and you just remove that DPS from Vala from the fight. Before we get to late game, which we might not see on this map anyways, it's very, very powerful. Late game, though, Tastar ends up building through his Psystorm build and ends up with the Twilight Archon and things like that. So that can be, you know, a counter to Cassie at the end, but she will blind Vala, and also will take very little damage from Vala's auto attacks.
Miracle now, considering what kind of tanks the front lines do they have, I thought they were actually considering taking Uther themselves. I guess not.
Maybe it's Rhaegar now. Yeah. I thought they might ban the Tyrael too. Tyrael's very strong for BlossoM.
Yes.
With the, protection that he's going to provide for Cassia and Illidan. It was more BlossoM-esque though to run the Uther with this. But it looks like they are just going to step away from that. Now, the Arthas ban is even further indicative that BlossoM absolutely wants the Tyrael. But if they ban the Arthas, then Miracle could just take Tyrael for themselves. So I'm not a huge fan of this. It very much insanely telegraphs to Miracle what exactly you're going to do. It says, okay, well, we're going to pick Tyrael, so please don't pick him. Let us have him. Also, Tyrion's good for you guys, too. And sure, Arthas is really strong against Illidan, whether you pick the Tyrael or not, but I think it very much shows Miracle that you're kind of going all in with this. And as predicted, Miracle is not going to let them have it. They're going to take the Malfurion and the Tyrael both.
The thing is, for Miracle, with what? Vala is their main source of damage. I feel like they need another one. Greymane is still open. Maybe they'll just finish up with Greymane along with the dive with Tyrael, which is a very good pair-up. But that's exactly why BlossoM already picked Cassie. I think they're well prepared against it. And
I think Li Ming is still not out of the question. Remember, we're on Battlefield of Eternity, so Li Ming's poke is very, very powerful. You have the more sustain. You do Q Vala instead because you're not all in on the Vala. You take the Li Ming. You have the protection for the squishy Vala, but you take Q. You kind of poke your way through the Immortals. You win based off objectives. You defend the dive because you have Tyrael. You have Malfurion for the Twilight Dream when the dive comes in. So I think Li Ming is a great 5th pick here. Greymane is not a bad one, but it's weak against the Cassia, as you mentioned. All right, will we see the Rhaegar coming out here for BlossoM, or are they going to try to go double? Varian is going to be how they want to lock down the Vala, and they will bring Rhaegar with them. So not a bad choice by any means, actually. This taunt, he can actually kind of ruin exactly what Miracle's trying to do with the Vala. And it will be Li Ming as the 5th pick. So this is what I like this draft for Miracle. It feels very old, right? It feels old style. Even at the end of 2016, you could see a draft like this on the map. But I feel like they round out the composition really, really well with this. And you basically have a comp that allows you to poke and deal with the dive. Whether the dive works or not is going to be how this game is won or lost for BlossoM. It'll be difficult to win the objective in terms of poking with the Q Vala and the Li Ming. Let's head into game number 1, guys. Battlefield of Eternity for BlossoM versus Miracle for the last series of this split. In blue, Team BlossoM. Illidan being played by Wiz. A role swap here. Gondar on the Varian, Mora on Rhaegar, Dudu on Cassia, and Nochat on Ariel.
And in red, MVP Miracle, Judy on Tyrael, Dami on Vala, Jaehyun on Malfurion, Crazy Moving on Li Ming, and Sniper on Tassadar.
So it's not crazy that they would put Wiz back on the melee. We've seen this swap happen already for BlossoM a little bit. They're going back to their old ways here because of the double support. Nochat's just such a good flex player that this is something that's allowed to happen, and Wiz has much more experience on melee hyper carries like we were talking about yesterday, so that's why they swap onto the soul lane Illidan. And looks like we're going to see the 2-3 split here, actually, which is becoming more popular, especially when you're against such a strong soul laner. So supports and solos. Vala up there, actually, and Li Ming in the bot lane. A lot of her damage will be out-sustained by No Chat easily, but the top lane will be won by Miracle, so it's okay, as you can see here.
It's a good trade, and Dami, of course, Q-Vala, not the auto attack or the W, so Wiz will be taking a lot more damage.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's why they send him up here. It's really cool, because this works well for the Immortal phase, but even in lane, as you mentioned, struggling, so it'll be kind of a support sustain war.
Yeah, it's a lot. Seems like it will be enough damage for the kill, and there's a reset coming in. The sustain and the blind is helping BlossoM right now.
Looks like this happened just because of a really good route. See if Dami can get out of here. Wiz is coming in. I think already used his evasion though. Yep, so it does wear off.
Yeah, double range and that slow coming from Dastar will definitely be so annoying for Illidan and Rengar, because they have to dive in, and if they can't really get a kill, when they try to go back, I think they will be very likely to be dead.
So such good wave clear in the bot lane too for BlossoM, and they have Ariel, so they should be winning it, but they lost that. They're losing the top lane for the reasons you just described. It's a really bad matchup. So in lane, that's really scary. But here's going to be where BlossoM's comp shines during the Immortal phase. Miracle's just going to look to be safe and poke. And so far, BlossoM hasn't found the angle on them just yet. But as you can see, they're just backing off, poking with the Qs, the Li Ming missiles coming out. Here's the dive, but they're unsuccessful in grabbing Judy. Good attempt there, a nice zoning route. And this is a problem. BlossoM's getting poked down now. And this comp for Miracle is doing better because they're unable to find the picks they're looking for.
The pokes coming up from Dami and Crazy Moving Handsome is so consistent. Glad BlossoM is having the double support. They can sustain against them, but not enough because they cannot go in right now.
It's going to be a lot easier post 10 when they have the taunt. And we might even see Valkyrie here. I don't think so, but I wouldn't be shocked if we saw it coming out, because it can isolate a target, can give you the potential to set up, because they don't have that much CC otherwise. They're not going to have it until 10. Detainment Strike's not consistent. So look at this. Judy's just trying to slow them down while they win the poking war.
There's a stun. Judy barely survived. Wiz dives in a little bit more. Gets rooted.
I worry for BlossoM because of they're struggling in the laning phase outside of this. I don't want to call it the laning phase, but you know, well, the non-objective phase while they're in lanes. And this is not crazy that Miracle would win this, because they have better poke, they have the Q-Ball, they have the Li Ming that we were talking about in draft. So it's not crazy that they would lose and actually have a heavy shield Immortal. It's the first one though. But I want to make sure that they stay even in EXP as best as they can towards 10, because that's when their composition really comes online. They need to survive until that moment. Miracle looks to snowball this though. And in the Oriole lane and the bot lane, BlossoM just simply should not be losing after this Immortal is finished.
Yes, they have a lot more sustain, of course, but against Tassadar on top lane, Illidan seems to be having an okay time with the clearing. But let's take a look. This Immortal actually did tons of damage to the fort too.
Yeah, part of it, which is for the same reason why they took the Immortals. They had so much poke. They have Siege with the Q-Vala. And even without Q-Vala, she does so well at poking. Like, even the W build's better for that. But you have Li Ming, who's just throwing missiles, throwing orbs. It's very difficult to deal with that amount of Siege power when you have a dive comp, and you just have to play defensive. So, ooh, Gondar overextending here, gets the charge off. Nice parry, though. Might have been the end of him had he not timed that perfectly.
After Tan, of course, with the taunt, will be a lot.
Definitely, absolutely. And that's what they just really need to survive towards. And you know what? It's interesting, too. The top lane, the 2v2 where they were winning it, they actually decided they wanted to have 4 down here briefly to make sure the Immortal was working out. And they clear the bot camp, so it's a camp for a camp. But now Vala is coming back up. And they're going to win the top again as a result and start pushing towards that fort. So they're maximizing structural damage this way. They can even protect with that poke we were talking about, these goat men. Gondar's coming in heavy. Parry used early. He's very low. Look at that root. They didn't get the follow, but that was sick placement.
And Mora comes in from the side, though. Does tons of damage from diving in. Takes out Li Ming. That's a good trade for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really good counter engage there in punishing the overextension there from Miracle, having the Malfurion so far up even to grab that root. And it looked like there was some disjointed communication by Miracle, as it looked like Jaehyun wanted to go in for the kill there, but the rest of the team was trying to back off, so he wasn't in position to save them there. That root could have maybe saved Li Ming. But either way, game's still pretty even. And this is exactly what BlossoM needed to do, is to just stay even in EXP, just survive. And they may lose this Immortal Phase 2, but it's the third one where they really come back in strong when they have those heroics.
The root on 2, no chat. That will not save him, of course.
And Jaehyun is one of the best Malfurions in the world. He was playing Malfurion. We talk about this all the time before Malfurion was meta, way before Malfurion was even considered to be slightly even okay. He was the only one who was playing it in Korea back in 2015, early 2016, and he is just showing his prowess with these roots. Winning these team fights, winning these exchanges with the roots alone. Look at this, again, going on to Gondar here. We'll be able to get away because there wasn't enough follow-up damage, but you have to respect these roots. They're just so well placed.
Had a great timing too. When they are escaping, there's a path you try to escape, and Jaehyun knows that and places the root right next to the targets. So this one will be the race coming in, but BlossoM did the initial damage to the Immortal, so they will win the halftime.
Yeah, it was 2v5 basically for Immortal damage. And it's going to be, this position is going to favor Miracle now because they can actually poke better.
Exactly.
And BlossoM has to invade, so Miracle can just kind of counter this now. This is where they do best. So even though they're behind 3k shields about, maybe 2.5, something like that, they're in the better position. They can just poke and then retreat back to their safe side of the map, to their Immortal. As you can see here, when BlossoM tries to turn it around, if the kiting is good for Miracle and they have really well-placed roots, it's just a big challenge. Judy, though, getting a bit far ahead of himself, does have the Aldruins to escape.
But the focusing, they're diving in deep and does take Vala out. Okay, that makes it a 4v5. Now BlossoM dives in with the sustain they have. They have so much healing available, and the damage onto the Immortal is so quickly done.
Yeah, this was a mistake by Judy, and now basically Miracle had the massive positional advantage. They had all the advantages in the world, but all it takes is one hero getting out of position, then you lose your DPS, you can't fight anymore, you can't poke. So very well done by BlossoM actually there, and they're making this dive comp look good, punishing the mistakes of Miracle, diving in when it matters most. The second there's no more peel because Aldruins had to be used for Tyrael, they jump in, take the DPS out of the fight.
And that's exactly what they needed. As they hit 10, they are pushing a little bit more. And maybe they want to snowball this one out a little bit more, but as we see 3 sources on 2 on top and 3 on the bottom. Maybe they just want to get the forts down and snowball the structured lead from the beginning.
A ton of damage actually going down there from Li Ming. But this is when BlossoM's comp comes online. So this is the scary part for Miracles. They actually struggled on that second Immortal. They lost it. And that wasn't even BlossoM's final form, if you will. Now they're at their final form for Heroics. They're going to have to deal with the more aggressive dives from Illidan. He'll probably take Hunt here, doesn't necessarily have to. This isn't a huge global map, but that's going to be extra stuns. If he does take it, the Ancestral, which allows him to be more aggressive. And it's not that the Heroics for Miracle aren't that good, but they're just not as impactful, and this allows BlossoM's comp to come online because Illidan can dive in, doesn't have to worry about getting caught or stunned or anything like that, or rooted, because the Aegis is there to protect him. The Ancestral is there to protect him.
They want to go and dive. There's a taunt, but follow-up stun is good. The shift, is that going to be enough? There's a protected root.
Such
nicely
a good root.
done by Jaehyun.
Jaehyun's roots all game long have been really good.
He has been waiting for that perfect timing too.
Yeah, he doesn't use it aggressively, minus that one time in the bot lane. He uses it mostly just waiting for the perfect opportunity, whether it's to get a kill or to save his teammates. He doesn't use it conservatively, or he uses it conservatively, not liberally, to make sure that it's always off cooldown and he can use it when it's going to get its maximum value. And this isn't with the Stitches comp or anything like that, just going to shut down the Illidan. The scary push now that Miracle is very much respecting. Just kind of kiting back. Nothing they can really do about this.
Yeah, all they have is poke right now, so and losing the fort was eventually had to be done. So he's poking some out and coming back after, because all they're looking is to poke out the Immortal and try to win the Immortal fight. If they lose the member during the team fight, it's really hard against the dives that comes in. And it's really hard to hit all the skill shots, especially when Illidan comes in.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I was worrying about when we saw the last pick Li Ming, because if you get taunted from very end, you'll be deleted off the map. And there's a lightning ball going in. Sanctification.
Good.
But the Hunt comes along. I think Wiz actually could have took Crazy Moving out there.
Yeah, a little bit passive there. And a lot of heroics used on both sides there, but Twilight Dream remains. I feel like if Miracle is going to win the Immortal phase, it's going to be through poke like this. And if they're going to win a team fight, it's going to be because of the Twilight Dream. It's going to be a defensive win in the team fight. As we saw just there, the Sanctification was so well placed, got them the better trades. We'll see if the Twilight Dream will be just as good when the dive comes in next time. Huge blind here. And the pokes are good. Before halftime here, obviously Miracle wins, as usual, as you would expect. They didn't bait the Twilight Dream in that last fight. Had they, maybe they win the dive that comes afterwards. They're coming in now. Here's the taunt and the hunt with it, but the Twilight Dream is good. As I was saying, the Ancestral is better, however, onto Wiz.
But they barely get out here. Maybe they'll even get the kill onto... They do onto Malfurion at the very end. That's one kill, and that's enough. And all of them basically has to heart back on or tap onto the fountain. And they can get back onto Immortal, which they have been doing so much damage on too.
Okay, here comes another taunt here. Dami, though, does have Stray, pops it down, but the parry is good. He barely survives here. Very well done. The shield's coming in. They're buying a lot of time, though, as they're about to even up the Immortal health. And that was two really good team fights by both teams, actually. That was a beauty to watch. Very refreshing after our first series, to be quite frank. But the Ancestral usage really good there on Wiz. So patient as well. The blind was good, the dive in, the taunt connections. You can tell BlossoM is calling out together. Wiz is probably the one yelling out the target. Then when Gondar drops it down, the taunt comes in, everyone's focus firing. The Sanctification usage so early in that fight, not being available for the later stages, was part of the reason why Miracle ended up losing it. Wiz is going to go ahead and split take this neutral camp. There's not much Miracle could do. They're not in a position anymore where they can actually poke because of that kill earlier.
They also have some CCs for the protection, but once the dive comes in, especially onto Crazy Moving's Gleaming all the time, there's not much that Miracle can do other than just give some heal and the protection. Once you do not have the Twilight Dream, which exactly BlossoM knew at the moment because they fought once and went back, and the hunt and the taunt cooldown is pretty low, so they can go back anytime soon.
Yeah. All right, Twilight Dream is ready again here. Just trying to defend this, poking down Dudu. He's actually the main target here. Blind not going to be too useful against that Ling Ming combo. Good detainment strike here on the Dami, but he is healed. Gondar is actually the target right now. Dudu is cut off. Wiz is split pushing. Can come back in with the hunt. Only he'll need to do that soon, though, if he wants to. Judy, once again, very far forward. Does escape. But Wiz is getting so much value here. He's actually possibly even going to get this keep. He has the siege minions there as well. They're rotating back to try to punish him. But look at this. BlossoM is not allowing them to take the quick rotation back. They have to take the safer one through the gate. And this is going to be a one Punisher. They almost got the keep, and BlossoM is now massively ahead.
The shot calling coming out from BlossoM is amazing right now with the macro. Started losing from the very beginning against Miracle, but once they had a few kills, and all they need, they don't even need the kills. All they need is for Miracle to actually go back hard back home, because once they control the macro, which they have been doing, when they have the hunt, they can come back like this.
Big power spike for Malfurion at 13. Jaehyun will be safer now with the ice block. That's something he was sorely missing in the last two team fights, but now that he has it, can make sure his Twilight Dreams are more effective. Doesn't have to panic use them. The first one we saw, not the best one. It was decent, but they weren't able to follow up there. Here comes massive chain stuns here onto Judy. He's lost half his health. And this Immortal still has shields. Very likely that BlossoM will hit 16 and even be able to take out this keep.
Meanwhile, Wiz has been doing a lot more damage onto the keep on the bottom, so they have to be considering both at the same time. Takes out Tyrael, actually.
Judy not having the best performance on Tyrael this evening.
This may be double keeps.
Yeah, looks like it will be. Where's the Twilight Dream? Where's these follow-ups? Just too safe positioning for BlossoM. They're unable to punish the dive. Wiz is going to be able to use this wall he left up earlier to get away. Dami on the chase, the evasion, not enough to stop the strafe damage, so it will be a one-for-one kill at the end of all things. But still, double keep, as you mentioned. And that means for the rest of this game, which might not go much longer, it's going to be double catapult pressure for Miracle to deal with. They don't have 16. And BlossoM, when they're diving in, they're choosing one target. It's Judy, because he's up in the front, too aggressive, looking for these picks for some reason. He doesn't even have Holy Ground yet. He's getting caught. He's up in the front lines, and this means that Miracle can't use the Twilight Dream. They can't focus down the dive when it comes in, because it's just detainment strikes and charges and taunts coming in. Then suddenly Judy's out of the fight. And Miracle needs BlossoM to fully commit for them to get maximum value out of Twilight Dream. There's no Bolt anymore either, so even when they get 20, it's not like he's going to be able to Bolt Twilight Dream. It's just no longer a thing.
Here comes another team fight. Great Sanctification dropped from Miracle, actually, but not much of damage coming down. Gondar has been protecting himself pretty well with the double support sustain now after the Sanctification drop. Here's the trouble coming in from BlossoM. They're looking for kills. There's the hunt. Onto Sniper now.
Okay, really good interrupt there onto that strafe, actually, by Gondar. Good call, actually, to make sure he wasn't doing massive damage. Ancestral, so well timed here coming out, and that actually will turn the fight. Judy, yet again, the first to fall. Twilight Dream only hits really 2 here. They're not able to follow up. Everyone's low, but they have that sustained healing coming out from Mario. Didn't even need to use the Aegis, and guess what? Triple catapults in the bot lane. This is starting to stack up against Miracle, and they are just unable to win a single team fight here. You talked about how it was going to be difficult for them to deal with Wiz when he comes and hit all those skill shots. It has been a struggle, but I feel like Judy is just overstepping the boundaries a few too many times here. And when you're solo tank Tyrael, you absolutely cannot be doing that. Or you're going to find yourself CC chained to hell. Valkyrian doesn't have cleanse anymore, and you won't be safe. You will be sorry.
And Mora's Rehgar has been impressive. And he's not a support player from what we know, guys. And those ancestral timings were pretty decent and connected every single time, if I believe. And here comes another hunt. And takes out Li Ming from the beginning of the team fight. This is over. Dami's looking for his life. He does not survive.
All right, Judy, at least he lives a little bit longer in this team fight. Sniper is going to be the next one to fall here. Jaehyun's not even safe. There's not even any keeps to protect him. Looks like Wiz was just going to play it safe instead. Not going to dive in for the kill. Not even necessary here, as we are going to go straight for core. Sub 20, 17.5-minute game will go over to Team BlossoM. The catapults are about to hit from both top and bottom. They've got the Shaman camp here. And that's going to be it. 8 kills to 3. The dive comp prevails. Ariel was the better option for first pick. They took it. And even though I was really feeling like Miracle was going to take the different route when they decided to ban Genji, they wanted this to happen. They wanted to face the Ariel comp. And perhaps they thought if they took away the Vala and the Tastar, that BlossoM wouldn't be able to draft around it, wouldn't be able to find value with the Ariel. But they certainly did. The Cassia play was solid. And diving into the backline there, Judy was never able to save the team. We saw very few Sanctifications because he was caught, out of position, stunned, CC locked down. Sanctification wasn't happening.
The dive and the overall team comp, even the talent choices coming out from BlossoM were amazing. They had the theme, they went for the dive. Varian took Stormwind on 16, helping with the movement speed also. And the Mora on Rehgar. He can still he can be a support too. And Wiz on, they had the big role swap. I was kind of shaking my head at the beginning, but after watching that game number 1, it worked. It worked so well.
Wiz is just so experienced on the Illidan,
yeah.
So if it were somebody else, I would be a little bit more worried. But when I see Wiz like that, I go, well, this just makes sense, right? It's exactly what you'd expect to see from Wiz. And he has been flexing back into that melee role a few times. I was more worried about, as you said, Mora on the support, but that worked out. The Ancestrals were really good, actually. He didn't miss a single one. My favorite was actually the fight at the top where they almost got the focus, and he just realized immediately, right before the damage started coming out, I just watched the animation of the Ancestral, I just have to like step back and be like, respect, man. Yeah, it was
also a miracle really not following up with the damage because they have no one to actually finish except for Li Ming, and Li Ming really couldn't get any resets because of all the double support protection, the healing coming out. So Crazy Moving's Li Ming does have a pretty good win rate, but not after game number 1. I think they are in trouble, and they've been falling short every single time. Oftentimes, they're winning the early fight every single time, even against MVP Black a few times. But after level 10, after level 13, it seems like they start to lose it almost every time, and they do not know how to finish the game. That's a big one.
Yeah. Well, where do you, I mean, they didn't pick Cursed Hollow. They picked their worst map, so that's also a thing.
That was 17%. Now it goes down to 1 out of 7.
Yeah, so now all BlossoM, BlossoM could take the 3-0 if they keep picking maps that Miracle's weak on. Perhaps Miracle will take the map pick over first pick. I don't think they will, but we saw that earlier from Raven, so maybe they want to roll with that. I guess that maybe you just go to